This is our game versus CapCity Clutch. And here we're just going to break down some of the film. Let's see how we match up after the tip. I want you to pay attention to number 15 here, and then the other guard on this side. What you'll notice is, just from the tip, right from the jump, we're not really matched up correctly. If I'm this guy, and my man is this guy, I want to be on the same side as him, just to make it easy and make it simple. There's no reason for me to be on the opposite side. Especially in this situation where in reality, they get a wide open shot to start the game. That is a terrific look 5 seconds into the game, 3 seconds into the game. And then also it looks like no one has this guy. And it looks like number 4 and 15 are both going to the same person, so there's no communication there. So there's just a couple things wrong here at the start. These kind of things lead to buckets the other way. I don't think this player hits it, but he has a kickback here. He kind of has a driving lane. Our help defense isn't ready because our backs are turned. There's just 3 things wrong right off the bat. And that ends up being a pretty good shot. And I like this box out. Really good job. Great job getting the rebound. When you do pass the ball from someone, you can't just turn. Oh, I can't use the line. Okay. Not paying for that. All right, so when you do pass the ball from someone, you always got to start off and assume people are in a press, especially if they're jumping in your face right here. You can't just turn and leave them, right? You're going to put your guy in a bad situation, turning and leaving. Fortunately, point guard keeps his head up, makes a really good pass. But that there, I would like you to stay and help him out. Really good job here breaking the press. And so if I were to ask you who has the advantage here, it's us. 2 white to 1 offense, 2 defense to 1 offense. We have the ball, so it's 4 on 3 going the other way. Guys up in the air. I would love for this to become a bucket of some sort, but I think we slow it down and get a little bit trapped here. 10-second violation. When you notice your teammate has the ball here and he throws it, we're looking to turn and go. There is no reason this should be a trap right here by one of these guys back here. And you got to turn and go. And so that's just slow. And it all starts with how we start that possession, not helping us break the press. And that's an early turnover. Let's see if we're matched up this time. Yep, we're matched up across the board. Really good job trying to lock the ball left, encourage it. And so, we haven't really talked much about our pick and roll coverages. But if you're calling this screen out, screen left, screen left, screen left, that allows our defender to, step up and play tighter. I would be calling it early, allows him to step up and play tighter and take away that screen. But otherwise, you should never get stuck under the screen. You should be calling out screen left, screen left. You should also call under, because you want him to go under the screen. Because to be honest, is any 8th grader shooting from here, they're not Steph Curry. So getting stuck on that screen and getting a switch is bad. Is this locking the ball left? Not really. I would rather you either step up and trap or drop down and let Lucas come underneath and stay with his man. And so in reality, if this team was, a little bit smarter, they'd try to find number 7. But we do a really awesome job here helping. That's a phenomenal job helping. Denying the ball. But now, hey, there's a mismatch here. We're denying the ball as well. We're really not in gap. Is this guy going to shoot here? Those are things you have to start to understand as a player. Who cares if your man runs around out here on the 3-point line? You need to stay right around the 3-point line area and, follow him. But, if your foot's back here, if you got 1 or 2 feet in the paint, you're helping this drive. And so we'll live with that shot. Long contested 2. But if this guy was, a lot smarter, or if this team was a lot better space, that's a layup getting downhill. But otherwise, pretty good job, forcing what I would consider a terrible shot, a long 2. And in reality, we have box out numbers. Caden, smallest guy on the court, boxes out. Do have to be aware of the weak side guy. He doesn't get it, so Caden just does an awesome job there. And that's pretty shifty. Good job helping your teammate out against the press. You're not an offensive lineman, Lucas. I'm looking for you to kind of get off this blocker. But we are looking to space a little bit better because now your man traps. Caden makes a pretty good pass. He had two options. He had an option to Lucas to the right or to Miles to the left. Got to be careful though. I know this pass gets through. Coach, I made the pass. I made the pass. I get that. But when guys are leaving their feet and we're shorter guards, if this is an athlete like number 7 or if this is a taller guy in high school, that's a deflection. Leaving your feet. You're better off to kind of come to a jump stop, pass fake, get them up in the air, throw a bounce pass. But, the pass gets through right here. And of course, that's not a great shot by our standards. Off the dribble, step back, in transition. Here, if we cut through, there's only 2 defenders to guard 1, 2, 3 guys. Same thing with Caden, create a little bit of space. I think when you break a press, when you break a trap, the first bucket usually isn't the first guy, especially 40 feet from the basket. The first look isn't the first guy, is what I mean. You're looking to catch that ball and try to hit somebody else, especially with his back turned. I think we can get a better option here. I like to drive. Man, drive all the way to the paint, kick it out. Let's hit a 3. Thomas, we keep talking about this, man. 2 feet inside the 3-point line. If you catch that ball there, that's a terrible look. Terrible shot. And even though this is a great shooter, awesome shooter, one of the best shooters on our team, that's a difficult shot. Off balance, fading. And hey, we get an offensive rebound. Guess what? I talk about this a lot. Shots from the corner or from the wing often go opposite, right? So that's a weak side rebound, and we get a bucket. At the end of the day, getting shots on the rim allow us to get opportunities to score, whether it's on the first shot or the putback. That's a really good job. Crashing the board there, being light on your feet as a guard, and getting the ball up on the rim. But hey, in pickup basketball or in high school basketball, this is a bucket. This guy would be looking long, and there's nothing we can do about it, right? And this is an issue we have in other games, but we crash this offensive board hard. I like it. I understand it. We need to do a little bit better of either shooter getting back or guard getting back. We just kind of backpedal here. We just skip in. And we're only worried about our guys. This guy, Thomas, is only worried about number 13. Didn't communicate. Miles, help, help. Or Caden, get back. This is everyone's responsibility. This isn't just Thomas. This is everyone. He's the one who got the offensive rebound and bucket, and he's having to get all the way back. That's a difficult, difficult thing. So this would be a full court pass at the higher level. Let's see how this develops. Luke is doing a good job locking the ball left. Not sure where number 7's defender is. That's Easton. Okay, you're in a good spot, Easton. You got to communicate with him. That screen's coming right. Decent job staying with your man, and now we're here. Thomas, we're in gap from the corner. We're helping stopping the drive. Caden should be sniping his man. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like Caden's man's in the corner. He's turning his head here, trying to find him. But Thomas, you got to be dropping and sniping. Dropping and playing gap. Miles is in a pretty good spot. We'll talk about that in a second. Caden's in a decent spot, but high-level basketball players are cutting there. I get it. We're trying to stop this guy. I like that. Easton, let's think about our defensive principles. Turn every catch into a what? A dribble. Turn every dribble into a what? A pass. That's what these guys will help you with. Now I want to play up in them a little bit, depending on the guy, but this guy can dribble. Let's play up in him a little bit, force him left, where you have help, make him make a bad decision off the dribble. And then here, especially someone who we talked about pregame, he can shoot. He can shoot. Especially tall shooters, you got to go over this screen. We go under, and someone else has to contest. Good contest. Really awesome contest. But, how could we defend this differently? We'll call out screen early, play tighter, Easton, fight over the screen most importantly. Who cares if he drives on you? You have a little bit of help. Mouse is telling you, step up, step up. That's what I would be saying. But now we go under. I don't know if someone communicates switch. I highly doubt it because that's Lucas guarding somebody else. We get a decent contest, but it's a bucket. And that allows the team to set up into their press. Bad press. Their press isn't that good, but they're able to set up into it. Now I'm telling Miles here right off the bat, hey, you got to communicate on that screen. Let's see what happens here on the press break. Thomas, you can't be leaving the ball. Right, Caden's in a pretty good spot. Miles, hopefully you're flashing middle here. Because where's the opening? The opening's in the middle. So Lucas takes his time. I'm okay with that. But now let's look at where the ball is on the catch. This is a tough, tough task for our guard. Thomas, come back to the ball. He's pulling a man. He's pulling a man. Easy swing to Thomas. And now we're in a huge rush. 3 guys on the ball. And we throw a decent pass ahead. That's not the best way to break the press. Got lucky. That's not the best way to break the press. There's so much here to talk about, actually. If you think about it, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the white team, 3 on the black team, which means it's 1 on 2 on the backside. Easton here backpedaling. Decent. I'd love for you to be quicker. But we have Miles over here who's wide open. And you might say, Coach, I'm open on the 3 on the 3. That's a hard pass to make, number 4 in your face. Ideally, Thomas would pass ahead to Easton, or Thomas would throw this over the top to you, Miles. But you're looking to get right here to this elbow area, right to the block, because of the way this guy's turning. He's turning and worried about this guy. If you're able to come to the ball some, you might get this pass, right? You're kind of fading away from the ball, backpedaling. We still have the advantage. All the black team is in front of the white. And so here we still have an advantage. If you're staying inside here, Miles, for now, puts this guy in a situation. Do I stay with this guy or do I go to you if you're on this spot? And so I'm 100% sure in this situation, we get the ball in the corner. I see the way the defense is set up, 5 guys in one area, and I'm yelling swing, swing. Caden off the catch here as a point guard. You have to realize we hit the corner, 5 white team guys over here, 5 defenders over here. I'm catching this ball and I'm looking for a ball reversal. I'm not forcing it. All right, I'm not throwing before I'm looking, but I'm quickly catching it and trying to ball reversal because we have a clear advantage over here. But we go back to the corner. We finally get the reversal, and now the defense is kind of settling in, and it's a little bit too late. Leads to a turnover. And they call a foul. So you might say, Coach, that's not my fault on the turnover. It's the team's fault by getting stuck in this corner and not getting a good ball reversal. I'm flashing middle here. I'm popping out, calling for this ball, giving him a better passing angle, and I'm hitting either my shooter down low, or once it hits Lucas, Miles, you can pop right back out, shoot a 3. Maybe Thomas is popping out, but somebody, we're looking for that early ball reversal, and that's an open 3. This is an interesting situation here. I think this guy misses his second free throw. Let's see what happens. He misses his second free throw here, I'm pretty sure. If you look in the box, 4 black versus 2 white. Point guard, you got to get up there and help. He misses his free throw and he gets in there, gets a deflection, and gets a jump ball. Right, so that's a really awesome job by number 13. That earns them a possession later. And what you'll notice here is right off the bat, this is what I like about this white team. 13, 0, 11, they're all talking. Oh, get up, press. Got to watch that guy over there, watch out. And they're communicating and pointing, and they know where they need to be, this 1-2-2 press. Now, they aren't great at it because I think they're a little too passive, but they're communicating. And so this is a really good job of hitting open guys and skipping ahead. And this is a classic example with my big man of how when you have a point guard going downhill, you got to put this guy in a bind. You got to put this guy in a bad position. And so you either need to go to this block or go to that block. That's your only 2 options. Go to this dunker spot or go to that dunker spot. But when you backpedal to 15 feet, you're not going to score anything or anything easy. But if you're right here on the catch, right on that block or right on this block, and a good point guard like Caden will find you, man, that's free 2 points. You're getting 6 or 8 points a game like that by someone breaking down the defense, especially in transition, especially against the press and getting that dump down. But we end up catching the ball super far away and we've lost our advantage. And then just a simple thing with all guards is when you do catch this ball from down low, inside out, that's either a shot or that's an attack. Driving back into that corner will just lead to contests and a bunch of different things, which is kind of what happens here. And I think this pass gets through, but that's not a high level pass, contorting your body and turning and throwing a lofty pass. And here I'm yelling it, and that's why Caden's a little bit confused and upset. I'm yelling really early on this pass. I'm yelling swing, swing, because I see these guys crash into the ball. Anytime it's inside out to the wing or corner, if you don't have a three, you're looking to reverse it because guys are closing out at you full speed. Far place away though, Lucas. Maybe he had nowhere to pass it. That's why he didn't throw it. Whether it's Lucas or Caden, good job coming back to the ball. And that's something you just got to see earlier. But I'm yelling swing to Caden because we have numbers. And here we just throw it without really thinking. Coach, I heard you yell swing. I did. Got to look first. Next possession. Now, I like what we're doing here. We're up in the guy. Got to see ball and man. Not really locking the ball left. If you sprint and cut this guy off and send him back to your left, you're in a much better position. Really good job getting all up in somebody. This is ball proximity. I like this a lot. You make guys have to pass the ball and make bad decisions. So here's another example of that high screen. Coach probably said, get him the ball, screen. Get him the ball, screen, because he can make a decision. And so, hey, we should be playing gap, and then we should really be playing heavy gap or almost wall because we're 2 passes away. We know this guy's a shooter, so we either need to go over the screen or you need to switch. And right here we go under and we switch late. Pretty good contest, I will say that. Pretty good contest, but there's no reason why we're above the free throw line and then we go under to contest. That being said, pretty good contest right there. Easton, hold that box out. You kind of get pushed underneath the rim here. I remember this. You get in front of them, hold them right there. Hold them. Anytime you're under the rim, it's hard to tell, but you're directly under the rim almost. You're only going to catch and make. And so he gets that quick put back bucket. And so if I'm another team's coach, I'm saying, hey, keep giving that guy the ball. Good things are coming. Caden's so fast with the ball. I like it. You drive, you get 2, swing. Kick it out. Not because you're not capable, but because it's the right read. And so here, so lucky it's not a backcourt, almost a turnover. And it just starts things in a little bit of chaos. The easy decision there would be that swing and getting downhill. And now we end up in a pretty good advantage spot right here. And I want to talk about it here in a second. There was one more thing I saw. Right here, Sebastian, one of the things I want to work on with you and Easton is backpedaling from the ball, hands straight up for no reason. This is poor spacing at the high school level. You're looking to be wider instead of right in front of them. Because if you catch it and turn, you have a defender on you and you have defense behind you. If you catch the ball and face the basket, you're sandwiched between this guy and these guys. It's going to get poked from behind. You're better off to be a little bit over here on the wing, kind of like Easton is over here on the wing. And that leads to some bad spacing right here. Sometimes we're just running around trying to find an open look. And then, right here, I like what we're doing. I like what we have set up here. Easton, if you're on this low block, that's a kick down layup. You being middle here kind of stops a driving lane, especially for a righty. You're looking to be on one of these dunker spots. A good place for you to be would be opposite, kind of boxing this guy out, because of 2 reasons. If you're in this spot right here, boxing out this guy, Caden can drive and bounce past you, bucket, or he can drive and get that easy layup, and you're in a good position sealing this man off, right? But when you flash middle here, That defender doesn't have to worry about you that much. Caden has to spin away, and we get stuck. I think I called timeout. Yep. Good timeout, coach. So we're catching the tail end of this inbounds play. We throw it over the top. This is Dallas. And so we're trying to get that open kick out corner 3 for us. George does a good job cutting down his off-ball screening. And Caden, you draw 2. This jump stop is an awesome jump stop by a guard. I'm talking, there's not a better look. Inside out 3, out of bounds play. Player knows it's for him. That would be a great pass. But instead, it's a contested, difficult shot that you can hit, but it's not high quality. And then, of course, the farthest 2 places on the court to run is from the corners, back with defense. And so when you take a bad shot like this and the other team gets a quick rebound and kick out, oftentimes it can lead to buckets the other way. We do a good job stopping ball. And right here on the trailer, we jump, for that little pump fake. And that's just discipline. This fast break transition, our heads are turned. We're trying to figure out who we're guarding. We actually get matched up pretty darn well. You 2 are switching, which is fine. There's not much of a difference between either one of these guys. But we're jumping here. And he ends up getting an open shot. And if guys are jumping at this rebound here, George, you don't see the ball. You didn't even know he shot until the ball was going through the net. That means we aren't boxing out. You got to see ball and man. You can tell that guy's behind you, but keep your hips towards the ball, and you're able to get this box out. There's no reason guys are jumping at the net like that. That means we weren't in a good position to box out. But here we go, next possession. I like that press break already. I remember specifically the ref here saying that's how you break a press. He comes back to me and talks to me. And coaches, we do this a lot with the refs, especially if you have a good relationship with them. This is a great job of taking 2 or 3 dribbles, hitting extra pass, and clearly you can see who has the advantage, us or them. Us. And it starts here. It starts taking an advanced dribble, swinging the ball, drawing 2, moving the ball, and cutting to the open spot. For our backup center here, that's a great pass. Difficult shot, with some length on you, Easton, because of how tall this guy is. That pass has to be quick. You do a pretty good job of it. Probably wouldn't do that dribble, but good pass. At the next level, Caden, you're going to want to box this guy out early. Just know there's someone behind you. That's a tough shot, but it's a good press break. And when we score, we're able to match up pretty good. This might be our best 2 possessions in a row. So after our press break, getting a look at the rim, no dribbles inside the half court. We match up a little late, but we lock our guy left, and who cares? Caden does an awesome job always of sprinting back, getting back in front of his man. We force the ball left. I'd rather not jump, but I guess he just hit a 3, so I understand. Sebastian, I would know this is the best guy on the court, so I'm touching him. I'm boxing him out right now. But we make this guy drive left and shoot what I consider a terrible shot. If you force guys to go left and you force guys to make bad decisions, they will. And so that's our best 2 possessions I've ever seen. And then we get right into another press break. Poor spacing. Eason, you're actually right on that block where we talked about. That guy comes down and helps from Caden. I don't know if that ball gets deflected or not. Just a little bit sped up here. see if it got deflected. It did. And so we pull Caden out here. Let's see how we run Texas. We're set up in a decent spot. I'm telling Easton to get lower here. That way you have a better angle. You should be kind of underneath this free throw line. But I think Easton saw an opportunity to cut. Here's the thing, Easton. It's hard to get that pass through with this guy here, right? And so I understand you're cutting, looking for that pass, but it's not there. And Lucas improvise, but that leads to a turnover. Tallest guy on the court is guarding the inbound, so I think we need to just execute. Sebastian, if you turn your head and look, you're wide open, right? So what can you do in this situation? You could just come right over here, box this guy out, and get a bounce pass bucket. That's an option. We're just leaving the open space. And Thomas, this pass over the top will almost never find our guys. I don't even think it's deflected. You're trying to throw it over the top. By the time these guys jump and land, the ball's already hitting the floor, and this is not a good pass. Baseline out of bounds, you're looking for bounce passes or long passes. That's a high and short pass. And really good job, Sebastian, getting in there. Seen a couple really good plays back to back by you. Pretty good press. I do want to talk about our guards here. Let's back this up. Sebastian, I just want to be closer to this guy. Here you see number 4 reacts. You got to anticipate. He's coming to help. When he moves, then you move. And he's got 2 steps on you by that time. Lucas, keeping your head on a swivel, knowing this ball is going over the top here, you just got to sprint. Here we turn, we look, we skip, and then we run. And that ends up being, I think, a foul. No, he didn't call it. All right. So, hey, we force a quick shot. But in my opinion, this is an easy look by them. Easton, I like this, box this guy out. Ball's important. Sebastian's on it. But we're boxing this guy out. We'll get a rebound. Good job getting the ball to a point guard. It's good spacing. Right off the bat here, we're double teamed. We kick it out. And so we have a numbers advantage somewhere, and it's out here. 1, 2, 3 versus 2. And so when this is happening, I'm yelling, swing, swing, swing the ball, move it, move it. And it's got to be quick because we got 3-on-2 right here. And so that pass happens. And if Sebastian, if you're lifting up, this is a wide open 3 or a pump fake drive or a pump fake pass down low. So this is great spacing by Easton, phenomenal spacing by Easton. Sebastian, you got to come towards that ball here a few seconds early. When you see people getting trapped and when you see your swing passer up here, you got to make this an easy pass to the slot. The slot is in this area. I like this pass back, George, but it's a difficult pass to make because why? They're overloaded. There's 5 white jerseys in this one area. So that's a difficult pass and catch. Easton's in a pretty good spot, and then by the time we catch it, our 3-point advantage is lost. That being said, Sebastian, great job catching it and just drive against the closeout. Really good job. And that's a shot that I've seen you make quite a bit, but the easiest look for us would be seeing 2-on-3, swing, 3-pointer. But this is a decent job of getting downhill and making a tough shot. That being said, though, something all players need to improve on is after hitting the shot, knowing who you're guarding is important. So if we watch Sebastian here, head turn, gets back. I know you're hype, he just hit a shot, but we skip back. We don't really communicate who's on ball. And now we're waiting and picking up the guy at the 3-point line. We're pressing. We got to know that after a bucket is the best time to press. But instead, we pick him up at the 3-point line. Leads to a steal. That's a really good gap help by Lucas. But I don't understand why we can't pick them up earlier. That's a lack of focus. Not Lucas, that's Jackson, that is. Really good job by Lucas running back to become the wall because his man's in the corner. Don't know if I communicated that or if he noticed it. Here we're just waiting. We get a steal. We pick this up. And if you see there's no advantage, you just pull it back out and get it to a point guard. The worst thing you can do is dribble. You have this guy open. Dribble. He's still open. And then you get stuck and have to kick it to the deepest corner. And so this is another one of those examples of how Easton, if you stay here on the block, you get an easy dump down of some sort. And so when that guy's driving, we've worked on this and we're going to continue to work on it. When that guy's driving, you have to find the passing angle. If this is a tough angle to make, you skirt along this way and he dumps it down the middle, right? But because you're backpedaling, that ends up being a difficult shot. That's a much different midi than getting like a one dribble pull up. This is a backpedaling catch and shoot midi fading away. Right? That's a difficult shot. And it should be a fast break the other way. Here, I feel like we're kind of jogging and jumping, but I want to talk about, we're not really matched up correctly, but I do like that we're taking away the paint and we're attacking the ball. But there's a little bit of hesitation here. I'm yelling. I'm almost playing defense. I'm yelling, get up there, get up there. And we're just kind of in between, right? If you're close, this ends up being a deflection, right? He's able to kind of fall away. Number 0 ends up falling away if we get really, really close, and that ends up being our turnover. It gives this guy more time to help. But when you're 5 feet off the ball, 3 feet off the ball, makes it tough. You don't even have to jump much. You just got to wave those arms. You got to be closer, though. And then this ends up being easy buckets. Because, we're lazy on this double team. You got to trap hard. You have about a second or two to react. That's aggressiveness. That's what it takes to be really good defenders. Pretty good look. Let's see what happens here. Break the press. One of the things Lucas... no, not there. That's fine. We are leaving him, but he does a good job. We do a really good job outrunning the press in this game. This is a pretty good look. Quick shot, but pretty good look. I would hope that we'd be able to get a rebound over here. Easton, you go for that box out, and I understand your thinking behind it. But on the offensive glass, sometimes you can just kind of stick over here, right? And let that ball come to you because of the angle. If you're underneath the rim boxing them out, you're not going to get a rebound. You're going to get a make. You're going to catch the ball through the net. Number 7 is going to be the one getting that rebound. But Sebastian, I think you kind of jog in here. If you run while that ball's in the air and box out number 13 here, that's your rebound and your putback. But we just kind of jog and let it happen. And then just the way AAU refs are, really good job pursuing the ball here. They're not going to call this stuff all the time. And let's see if we get matched up. Is that not a shot we will live with? Guy hits 1-3, a little bit contested, nobody in the paint to rebound. Trying to box out here, boxing out here, pursuing the ball. That's a shot we will live with and we will love all day long.